Welcome to Public Health America. I'm your host, Dr. William Latimer. Here on Public Health America, we speak with experts from an array of specialties across the liberal arts and health professions to provide you with not only the best science, but practical tips to live a healthier life. We also celebrate what studies have long documented, namely the unparalleled value of a liberal arts college education by setting the stage to pursue a career of your choice, increase lifetime earnings, and engage in civil debate. Our experts will share decisions they made and support they received that helped them to beat the odds. By sharing one or two life lessons, their stories may provide you with the inspiration and method to realize your dreams. This is Public Health America. Hi, welcome to Public Health America. I'm your host, Dr. William Latimer. It is my pleasure to welcome to the program today Dr. Cara Grant from the University of Maryland. Cara, welcome to the program.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine. So, Cara, I know you've been doing some cutting edge work on health education, and I know you have a new book. Congratulations. Tell us a little bit about your work and about the book.
Thank you. Well, I'm just excited for the overall product. Critical Race Studies in PE came out by Dr. Blackshear and Culp a few years ago. I contributed a chapter there, and through that, it laid the groundwork for intersectionality in health education. So I co-authored this with Dr. Troy Body. What really the book does is it gives a space and a place for us to talk about uncomfortable topics. Think about white supremacy culture, think about racism as a public health issue, and think about how students pre-K through 12 are accessing health education and what norms are we indoctrinating onto them that are different than the values that they have at home. So intersectionality really lays the groundwork of, being Black and a woman, being Black, a woman, maybe undocumented, being Black, a woman, and having another language as the first language, and so on. So the more we layer on these possible barriers and marginalized groups, the more difficulties folks have to access health resources.
That's great, Cara. Let me ask you this. So I would suggest that diversity, equity, and inclusion has undergone tectonic changes in the last decade, much needed. To what extent does the work you just defined overlap with DEI efforts at the college level?
I agree wholeheartedly. It's a constant journey. We have to keep moving forward with the work and understanding it's not an attack on any one group or person. It is a chance to elevate other voices to the table. So by doing so, this book is a case study book and allows us to see different perspectives, not necessarily creating a monolith saying this is one right way, but saying this is one perspective based on the case study or the chapter, and gives people an entrance into the conversation. So through the work at University of Maryland with diversity, equity, and inclusion, we're able to keep building on the work that was set forward before us to bring this equity journey forward for the next generation.
That's great. So let's be more specific. How does the elements of your book possibly inform specific programming or things that get DEI into, the DNA of the University of Maryland?
The great thing about University of Maryland is it's under the Maryland State Department of Education framework, which includes a diversity, like a certain number of diversity programs and courses that our students have to take already. These can vary from gifted and talented to students with differing abilities and so on. And so what this does is it takes some foundational theory and research on these topics and adds it to health education as a construct and concept. With that being said, it gives an actual document so that people don't have to say, hey, when you did this in my class, when you taught this way, you're being racist. It gives another, like a case for people to look at to say, what you were doing wasn't right. Instead of saying it like that, you say, look at this case here. This makes me feel uncomfortable. Like, this person felt uncomfortable, instead of saying it's about me. So it creates a way for peers in the college to have conversations about how they're leading in to conversations and establishing their syllabi and establishing their lecture series and establishing how to engage with, a majority predominantly white institution when you have majority white students in front of you, and how to bring them into a conversation that they may or may not have been a part of before.
Tell us a little bit more about the book itself. What are some of the unique aspects of the book on health education that you've written?
So the unique aspects are that we, like I said, we follow the model of Dr. Blackshear and Culp in the Critical Race Studies in PE book. And that model has explicitly only contributing authors that are Black. So being Black, and you're adding time into space from that perspective, as opposed to having someone outside of community writing about Black people. So all of the authors are Black, including myself. I'm Black and white. And then they leverage the information and the concepts into the resource. The cases were then built out looking at the tenets of health education contents, like mental and emotional health, nutrition, human sexuality, and then pair that with the health literacy skills like interpersonal communication, advocacy, decision-making, goal setting, and so on. So we took those concepts and kind of grouped them together, and that was intertwined with different people's perspectives and how they navigated the world.
That's great. Part of what we're trying to do at Chestnut Hill College is not simply enroll. How do I say this? Our primary mission is to enroll underserved student populations, and that includes first-generation college students, students of color, veterans, and other populations, and get them to the finish line. But I also think that it's about leadership opportunities, like really providing opportunities for students to be the next leaders of their generations, whether as doctorally trained students and or having other positions. How does your work dovetail with that?
Part of what we do in our master's degree program is to have a certain level of professional growth standards. These growth standards include contributions to the professional community. I serve as president-elect of SHAPE America, which is the Society of Health and Physical Educators. And I also serve locally on SHAPE Maryland, Society of Health and Physical Education Maryland. So part of that may look like attending and presenting at local state conference, or attending and submitting to present a paper at a national conference. So this year it's going to be in Cleveland in March. And we're going to co-present this resource and also do a couple of other presentations and coffee talks along the way.
That's great. And what do you see as the next steps of your work?
Wow. I personally am on a journey myself, and I just want people to know learning never stops. We always have to write the story that people aren't going to write about us. We have to tell our own story. At the same time, we always have to be open to different perspectives, to hear and listen from others. There's not just one right way. There's many ways to solve a problem. And so with teacher education programs, it's empowering and enlisting teachers to feel and have that reflective practice in them, to know that there's not just one right way to navigate this world, and there's not just one right way to come out of your class, health or physical education, successful. There's many access points and entry points, but there's also different ways to exit the program so that we have health literate and physical literate students. It's the same with the teacher ed programs. We know we're successful if we can have more health and teacher ed candidates enroll in universities across the nation, as well as more successfully completing and moving forward in leadership in the field. So my goal would be that in the future, I can help grow that future teacher workforce to feel empowered, to want to go into education, to want to stay in education, and contribute to our future leaders and students.
That's great. What else can you tell us about? Your book sounds great. How do we buy it? How do we get to it? How do we find it? Is it on Amazon? And what else can you tell us about different elements of the book?
So yes, it is on Amazon. The publisher is Human Kinetics. So if you simply search intersectionality and health education and you put Cara Grant, it will come up. So you can buy it from either of those options, Amazon or Human Kinetics. The tenets of the book, really, there's 10 case studies. We have really great resources and awesome cross-reference of like just really exciting work that I've done in equity through other forums. We were able to leverage that and cross-cite that in the preface as well as the conclusion. And now we really want to empower others to then take that and write their own case. So the last component of the book has form and structure for you to reflect on these cases to then write your own.
That's great. You know, as we wind down this segment, this part of the first part of the show, could you give an example of one of the case studies?
Sure. So pull yourself up by your bootstraps is an example of one case study. And so we've heard that terminology a lot of times. But in reality, if you do not have bootstraps or boots on, how can you pull yourself up, right? So it unpacks the assumptions we may make of how people access healthcare. So when we're teaching about health education to pre-K-12 students, and we're assuming that they're doing preventative care for dentists and well visits and physical, then we're making a lot of assumptions about healthcare and how they can access that. So just getting to know different communities and resources, as well as knowing that people enter healthcare from different places, whether you're in a rural community, a suburban community, or a high city community, just even how you can access wellness clinics, preventative care doctors, and the like. So it really attacks our working assumptions of middle-class America about how I grew up. I had the assumption, I was indoctrinated thinking that everybody had healthcare. I mean, that was my flaw. I didn't realize, some people don't. And when they're sick, they just go to the emergency room. But you just, and so when you think about it, there was an overrepresentation of Black and brown people in COVID dying because of this. I mean, racism as a public health issue, there's nothing more to say than that.
Absolutely. And Cara, thank you so much for the work you're doing. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Dr. Cara Grant is going to talk a little bit about her educational journey that led her to have the opportunity to have the great career that she has at the University of Maryland. This is Public Health America. I'm your host, Dr. William Latimer. We'll be right back.
19.7% of Bronxites currently experience food insecurity. Meanwhile, instead of these nice, colorful foods, this is the best food that they have access to. If this sounds like you, there are a bunch of resources to get healthy food for free or cheap. If you want to help, you might consider donating or volunteering in one of these places. Community fridges like this one are all over the city, and allow New Yorkers to conveniently donate extra food to people who might need it. Go to this link and find your nearest one. Food banks and pop-up events like these provide millions of healthy meals to families in need. These organizations are distributing meals to Bronxites as we speak, and are always accepting donations and volunteers.
Welcome back to Public Health America. I'm your host, Dr. William Latimer. Cara, we always begin this part of the segment with the same question. Tell us where you were born and about some of your formative experiences.
All right, I'll try to make this quick because it's complicated.
It's okay, take your time.
Okay, so my parents met at SUNY Brockport. My dad's from the Bronx. My mom's from upstate New York. There were no teaching jobs in the 70s, so he went into the military. My dad went to the military, and I was born right off base in Massachusetts. We moved around. Eventually, my parents got a private school teaching job in Maryland, and I've been in Maryland ever since, of course, with weekends, summers in the Bronx and in New York, of course. So from there, when I grew up, it was the 80s. You know, two private school teachers trying to make a living is very much lower middle class. So the neighborhood, I didn't find out till later that we were growing up in, was mainly Section 8 houses. As I got to middle school and high school, it was became more apparent to me that a lot of the houses near me were crack houses. Even so much as at the bottom of my block, a lot of stabbings would happen. And people I knew would be like, you didn't see me. Because, if you get stabbed, when the emergency comes, they cut off all your clothes to make sure that you're not injured anywhere else. So my parents practiced putting me in a ton of sports activities. So I was never home. I was always, doing soccer, basketball, or whatever have you. So it was either that or we were at church almost every night of the week. So that was their practice. From there, I still asked my dad, how did you convince me that I needed to go to college? I was like, what did you do? What was the magic? Because I'm a mother of 4 sons right now, and I'm trying to figure out, how do I get them convinced that college is the pathway? And so my dad just laid it out that that's just something you have to do if you want to make enough to get by in this society. Yeah.
That's
and
a
so
great
from
story.
there, I
Your
went
dad
to
and
Maryland.
your parents both were instrumental in instilling in you the value of higher education. What was your choice? What was the choice like when you were reaching the end of your high school education and you were thinking about college? What was that process like, and where did you land?
So it was like, what can I afford? And what did that look like? I applied to colleges that were in a geographic area where I could take the Metro bus to them. So that had me applying to University of Maryland College Park and Howard University, a historically Black college and university right in DC. What I found out real quick was that Howard, because it was in DC, was twice the cost. So I ended up navigating and going to University of Maryland for undergrad. At the same time, I also went to the Air Force to take the ASVAB test to say, hey, this is also a very reputable career pathway as well. And then that way, if I couldn't afford college, the military would help me fund that.
Well, University of Maryland's a phenomenal school. Tell us a little bit about your experience there. What was your major? How did you, what was your journey like at University of Maryland?
College was amazing. I absolutely loved the freedom that college entailed. It was, like I said before, it was a predominantly white institution. At the same time, with 30,000 plus students, and you have about 17% Black and brown folks like myself, that adds up to a couple thousand people that look like me that may be navigating the same experiences as me. So I sought out people like that. I joined a sorority, a Latina-based sorority, Lambda Theta Alpha, Latin Sorority Incorporated. And what I found out is most folks that were in a sorority, it created that community to persevere through the difficulties that college can have. So I took 6 years in undergrad because, one, I was paying my way. So I didn't want to take more than the 12 to 13 credits because I needed to balance working to pay for school as well as the social life that I thought I should have for well-being and balance.
And where did you land in terms of a major?
kinesiology with a focus in physical education. So when I graduated, before I graduated, I had received an open contract to teach in a local Maryland school district.
That's great. And what were some of the key advantages, or what was your experience like at Maryland? Did you face challenges? What were the best things about your experience there, whether in terms of mentors or experiential learning opportunities?
One thing I thought was really great was the Black Student Union had a big and little program. So they paired me up with another student to help mentor and coach me. So that was peer-to-peer mentoring. Like I said, the sorority I was in really helped build my executive functioning skills, time management, having people that held me accountable to get my stuff done, to reach a certain GPA that I really needed to have in order to finish the program, and to believe in myself when I felt like I couldn't, or I was down on myself about things. Because anatomy and physiology, biomechanics, exercise psych, those are really hard classes. So I had to learn how to navigate them, how to get support when I didn't understand. And so that helped. So I had a university mentor, Lynn Owens, and then Dr. Elizabeth Brown, who really also helped me with coaching and support through the process as well.
That's great. So where did you land after the University of Maryland? Obviously, you're at the University of Maryland now. Did you get an advanced degree?
So I started teaching. I taught middle school health and physical education, a local Maryland school district.
Yep.
And then I went to a historically Black college and university, Bowie State University, for my master's degree in curriculum and instruction. And then from there, I had family and navigating a workspace environment. And I then went on, nobody else in my family had a doctorate. So I went on to get a doctorate through an online university and completed that in educational leadership, curriculum, and instruction.
That's great. And what was that journey like? Were there challenges you faced? What were the opportunities that helped you get through?
For the doctorate?
Master's or doctorate?
So it really goes back to the pacing. I do better when I have an accountability group. So some programs automatically have you in a cohort. Others, you have to find your group of colleagues. You have to find the people that believe in you, that you are on a common path together when others aren't taking that path, so that they truly understand, like, why are you taking these classes after you're going to work and you have a family at home? Like, what does that mean to you? Why are you doing that? And what benefit will it have long term? That you're investing in yourself now. There's a little bit of a struggle, but long term, it will pay great dividends. One, for your intellectual well-being, but also for your financial well-being of you and your family. So the cohort, find your people that are doing common things, so that way when other people don't believe in you or they're trying to knock you down, you have the colleagues that I had that lift you up and take you along the journey.
That's great. Find your people. I love that statement. I think that's exceedingly invaluable, and consistent with what some of our other guests have said. Cara, if you were to give advice to a young person in the Bronx or Philadelphia about whether, let's say they're on the fence, college costs money. A lot of people are asking, is it worth it, a liberal arts education? What would your guidance be to young people and or adult learners that may or may not be on the fence of attending college?
Your journey is your journey. Do not compare yourself to others. I entered thinking that going to college was a 4-year journey, undergrad, and I didn't have to work, and other people I know didn't have to work. That wasn't the case. So my journey was 6 years in undergrad. I was working to pay for it. And so that's important, is do not qualify or lower yourself based on a standard that somebody else sets. You make the standard based on what you want it to be. So that means you're working full time and you're taking a course this semester. That's your journey. You'll get there. You just have to continue to do the practice and be disciplined to get there along the way. So when I got my doctorate, I literally sat on feedback for a year. I was like, I didn't know what to do with the feedback. So yes, it took me longer. And a year is a long time to take time to reflect on feedback. At the same time, I could have gave up and I wouldn't have a doctorate, or I could keep going, getting my doctorate, being the first in my family to have a doctorate, so that other people in my family that come after me, or other young people that are multicultural or that are Black, can look and say, oh, this is someone like me in my community that overcame some obstacles and persevered to get what she wanted to get done, to provide for her family, to provide for her community.
That's fantastic. I want to thank Dr. Cara Grant from the University of Maryland for spending some time with us today. I want to thank our viewers for tuning in. This is Public Health America. I'm your host, Dr. William Latimer. We are grateful for your tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Until then, take care.